Hey everyone, it's James from the Fit RV, and I'm here today with an RV mod project that I think I can get done in just the time I have available after work. But considering my track record, this is probably going to wind up involving like a forklift and an amputation, but we'll see how it goes. So the project has to do with this, the sewer hose. Now, sort of the default place to store the sewer hose in the Echo might just be kind of curled up in the bottom there, you know, and that's fine. But it's kind of in the same cabinet with the fresh water, and nah, I'm not so thrilled about that. So what we're gonna do is, I finally got one of these guys. Now this is the Super Slider. So we actually saw this and reviewed this years ago. It is a sewer hose storage solution that you can, this one is the slider, so you can make it bigger or smaller. And you put the sewer hose in there, but the cool thing about this is it is large enough to accommodate any sort of connections you might want to put in there, like the Americanizer. So this is what we're going to install. Now, I've done some looking on, you know, I wanted to install one of these on our RV Lance, but never could find a good place for it. I found what I think is a good place here on the Echo. So we're going to be installing this for number one, and it's going to go kind of right up under here. But I don't have a whole lot of room, so I'm going to have to shorten it, actually. Most people would want to make this longer. I'm actually going to be shortening it and installing it up under there. So let's go inside, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I've got ready. I'm sure it won't be everything, but this is some of the stuff I've got to get this project done. This is what we've got to try to work with, and you can make bets now on whether or not you think I'm going to have to run to a hardware store to get something to finish. First, of course, we've got the Super Slider itself, right? And this is just basically ABS plastic. Now, I will be using the bandsaw, I believe, to cut this down. We'll get to that in a minute. So there's that. Now, to mount it up underneath, I've got some stainless steel hex head washer screws and an assortment of washers and lock washers. And I've got these other screws that will go on the other side. So you'll see how all that goes together. Rubber washers. Got some angle aluminum here because I'm going to need to make a bracket. So I'll be using the hacksaw to cut that up. And then there's some other weird metal cutting I'm going to have to do. I'm going to actually try it with my fine Multimaster. Now this is the same tool you saw me install Mel's cat door with. But they actually make blades for this for metal. And so I have this one, which I'm going to try first, but it looks like I've used it before, so I can't tell how sharp it is. So if that doesn't work, I've got some backup blades here, and we're going to try that. And then, yeah, that's it. There's one more thing that I don't have yet, and that's some rubberized undercoating spray that should be arriving here any day. So that's what we're going to try to install this with. So the first thing we're going to do is go out and measure, and then we're going to cut this Super Slider down to size. All right, so where I'm going to mount it is right up under here. So I am going to be using this. This is my new creeper. It's flat. I love it. It's kind of a fabric-y thing. So I'm going to get under there, and I'm going to measure how long I've got in the spot where I can install it. 33 inches. Let's go cut some Super Slider. What I'm going to do, there we go, is to cut these two halves individually. Now, I can cut them both smaller than I don't have to, that's a good thing about them sliding inside each other, is I don't have to get it right on the money. As long as I cut it shorter than the total length, but greater than half of the total length, I'll be fine. So anywhere between 16 and a half and 33 inches, and I'm gonna be good. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to cut it just here on the bandsaw. It's ABS, I've cut it before. On the bandsaw, should be fine. Cool, one. Okay, so I've got my two shorter pieces, which go together about like that. Let's see how we did. So the idea is that it doesn't hang down too much lower than anything that's already here. And I think so here's the weird cut on metal I was talking about. I'm gonna have to notch out a little bit of this trim right here in order to let this snug up to this piece up here. So we're gonna give that a try. It'll wind up being like that. So that's how it's gonna mount up. I've had the idea to use this to cut the metal that's on the Echo, but it occurred to me that since I've never actually used this tool to cut metal before, and I have to cut a metal aluminum, like an aluminum bracket anyway to mount one side of it, that maybe I should practice on something that's not the RV. So if I mess up here, it's kind of okay, and I can just figure out something else to do on the RV. So we're going to try to cut this just here with the tool. So what I've learned is that cutting with this tool is not terribly delicate. Like, I think I actually get a cleaner cut with a hacksaw. So what we're going to do on the RV is we're going to save that tool for just the parts where I can't actually get a hacksaw in there. But we'll do the hacksaw cuts first to border up my cuts, and I think we'll get a decent end result that way. So now this bracket is going to be used to hold the forward end of the super slider. But we're not going to install it yet. I just was using it to practice cutting. 6 1/4. I make a 6 1/4 inch gap right here. So let me just mark where I think it might look good. And there. All right, so now we're about to find out how good I am hacksawing on my back. The shavings falling onto my face. I don't have a lot of clearance here. Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. So far, so good. All right, so there, we've got 2 cuts. Now, from inside, I'm just gonna rest the blade of that oscillating tool up in this crevice and maybe just poke straight out. So we'll see how that goes. Once you get a corner through, it's a little better. All right, there we go. Let me clean that up with a file, and we're just gonna go with that. Okay, so one of the peculiarities of the way this thing is mounted and some of the angles on the trim on the back is that when it's mounted where I want it, the door is just a tiny bit too tall to open and close with the cutout that I've made. So I could either cut more of the trim in the RV in a little spot, which I kind of don't want to do. So what I'm going to try is I'm just going to slice just this 1/4 inch or so off the top of this door, and then the door should open and close in where the trim is. So that's what I'm doing here. This kind of reminds me of when I cut that refrigerator door, like working without a net. Just a tiny little gap there. All right, so I'm needing to mark some holes so I can mount this bracket up, and this is the inside end, not the business end that I'll be working with, on a day-to-day basis. But we've got this little knob here, and I think I'm just going to remove it because this end is going to be butted up against a wall, and so the door is never going to open. So I'm gonna just plan on, why don't I do that now? I'm just gonna remove that. There we go. Now, I'll get some ABS cement as soon as we're done here and just glue that shut. And I'll maybe drill a hole or something in there just to let some water drain out if anything gets in there. I don't want it to fill up with water on one end or the other. So, all right, so now for the, why don't we do it this way? Oh, that's way too smart for me. Here we go. I'm going to seal this end shut, and this is ABS, so I'm just using ABS cement, just like you would use if you were going to weld two pieces together. And I'm just going to drip it along the edge here. Boom. That should seal up here inside of a minute. Got to tighten those up. Okay, I've got one last thing I want to do before I mount this up, and there's this bundle of cables, and it's mounted up kind of here. Can you see that? Okay, it's mounted up kind of here, and that's kind of in the way of dirt. It's kind of in the way of where the super slider needs to go. So I'm going to relocate this to here, like right in there maybe, and then I'll have a cleaner path to mounting the super slider. But one thing I've learned about self-tapping screws is that they don't. So I'm counting on having to drill a little starter hole for the screw. So, but first I got to get this out of there. Haha! I didn't realize we had been through that much dirt already. My gosh. I'm just going to drill a little starter hole somewhere right in there for this hose clamp. All right. Now where'd the screw go? There was a black screw.
Right here.
No, the screw.
Right here.
Yes. There we go. So now, when the super tube's up here, that'll just ride along the top of the tube. Bueno. Okay. I'm going to attach these with these number 14 self-drilling, haha, screws, washers, and lock washers. So, I want to finish this off by hand. I don't want to take a chance on busting anything. All right. So I had to get this right angle drill to pre-drill these holes. Three. All right, last screw going in. This is not fun working under here. All right. I think we're done. With that, I now have room to store our sewer hose in there, and also the Americanizer. Should all fit in there and close up. All right, and mounted in such a way, it doesn't really come down any lower than like these bolts or the bottom of the trailer hitch or anything like that. So I'm not too concerned about taking up clearance. Now, like I said, I do have to, when my undercoating gets here, I'm gonna put some rubberized undercoating on all the exposed pieces of metal so that nothing rusts up, but I'm considering this done. See you later, bye.